We are very close to genetically engineer the height of people based on recent discovery. So let's find why. To genetically engineer the height of people, we need to first understand which genes or which pathways are affecting height. And then once we know, and we can really track, okay, this is related to people of certain height, and we know which genes are affecting them, then we can use the genetic tools available and see if we can engineer them. So based on a recent publication, scientists seem to be able now to map the genetic difference of height. This video, I want to focus more on the science, as we're able to genetically engineer height, and not if this ethically correct or not. Just as a disclaimer, no one should feel that your height should be a symbol of your value in life. But the reality is that many people, if possible, they would like to be closer to the mean of height. Some people that are too short, not just maybe aesthetically, but also functionally, they might not have the easier life. And also people that are too tall might not always be winning in the NBA, but they might be just also suffering a day-to-day. To engineer the height, to be able to choose it, would you do that for your kids? That's not the question I'm gonna answer here, is are we gonna be able to do it? Something people always say, doctors or scientists or people in general, you say, height is mostly genetics. If you have a good nutrition and your parents were tall, you most likely will be tall because it's genetics. Good. We've been saying that a lot, but which genes? And the reality is very complex because not just one gene, it's not two, it's many genes, it's many polymorphisms that are affecting the height of individuals. So now fast forward many decades, scientists have finally cracked a huge part of this mystery. After studying the DNA of over 5.4 million people, that's more people that live in Ireland and less than a small city in India, they have identified over 12,000 genetic variants that influence how tall we are. So the question is, what's a genetic variant? A genetic variant is just a tiny difference in your DNA. Think of your DNA as a recipe book. A variant is literally swapping one DNA base for another. Imagine a cooking book, it says 1 tablespoon of salt, but then it changed to 3 tablespoons of salt. It's just one number change or one letter change. It's very small, but it's enough to make your food way more saltier than they should. The same happens in humans, either because of mutations that occur many years ago, many centuries or thousands of years. Some people have different genetics, certain differences in their genetics compared to other people. And when you add up thousands of these across your genome, boom! That's why some people, maybe your cousin is 6.5 and you still can reach the top shelf. It could also be that it's just a few of these genetic variants made a difference. And now we're able to map them. So scientists of the giant consortium, yes, they call it like this, giant consortium, and include scientists of MIT, the Broad Institute, Boston, Harvard, many big universities. They did something is called GWAS, or Genome-Wide Association Studies. And they used this to scan the entire genome and associate, specific genetic variant that they find in a specific person, and they link this to their adult height. Taking also in consideration that the person just had the normal, let's say, upbringing, that was not malnourished or didn't go to a period of famine or certain disease, because this of course can affect the height, or didn't take any drugs that could also, let's say, make it taller or smaller. They try to control for that and check then, what are the effects then on height? So it's a very complicated work because there's billions of bases in your DNA and they were analyzing more than 5 million people. So it's very strong detective work using a lot of advanced computing for analyzing this. What they found is that height-related variants aren't just randomly scattered. They mostly cluster around genes involved in bone growth. Of course, that makes a lot of sense. Genes that affect bone growth relate to the actual height of that person. But Which ones? The crazy part is that these 12,000 variants can explain up to 40% of the variation in height. Of course, this is not yet 100%, but quite a big advancement. So now, if we know which are the genetic variants that may, let's say, affect someone's height, we now have the genetic tools in theory to be able to modify an embryo and make it that this person will grow to a specific height. And this is of course not so easy, and it should not be taken lightly, because we are just now associating these variants to a specific height. But let's say specific variant could also involve in different things. And let's try one example. Maybe one specific variant make people taller, but increase the chances of osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer. So you don't want to play with this if you don't really know. Also putting all the ethics behind that, which is a big topic. You also don't know if this could cause a disease, or maybe this specific variant is also associated with, let's say, a lower lifespan or a higher lifespan, or maybe to how receptive is to other diseases. So of course, this is just the start, but we're getting close to it. And now we can think about modifying the embryo. And this, of course, is ethically concerning. But we could also now understand, okay, if we have a specific kid which has specific variant that's associated, let's say, with a lower height that's the average, that might cause them problems, not because smaller people have bigger problems, but if you're too short, for sure, many people would be like to be a few centimeters or inches taller than they are. And maybe then we can then predict it and then treat it accordingly very early in their life. Because if we know, for example, a specific gene needs to be activated to increase the height, if we could model, or we can somehow maybe with a drug on the kids that could be used to, for a specific period of time, model this gene so it develops in more bone growth, for example, maybe this can help the specific person to grow, or not to grow so much, if that's also the case, to the desired height. We're getting very close to control the height of humans. We're not that yet. We might be sooner than we think, and height difference might be something of the past. Thank you very much.